I don't know.
You guys ready to go? Ready? Okay. So I'm Julie. I'm a speech pathologist. I have a private practice. I was on Daniel Island for about 10 years, and now I'm in Mount Pleasant. I'm right nearby at Bell Hall. And I've been really lucky to be able to work with kids at Trident for the whole time, basically the last 10, 11 years. I've been able to work with kids here, working on various goals this year. I come here 3 times a week. So just super fortunate to work with these kids. I love them so much. So we're going to talk a little bit about having fun with words. Hopefully some of the stuff can carry over, make your kids maybe more interested in vocabulary and just hopefully making it stick. You know, I work with other kids, like 5 or 6 other schools also, and I work a lot with middle school, a lot with high school, and a lot of times they'll get these vocabulary lists or these words and they'll learn it for that week only, right? And then it never carries over. So we want to think of ways where they can maintain it and they can incorporate it to, communicate more efficiently and help their reading, of course, too. All right. So general definition of vocabulary, it's the set of words that a person knows and understands. So not just do I recognize that word, but can I use it in a variety of contexts, right? So unfortunately, like I said, when kids are being given a vocabulary list, they're only oftentimes that I come across, for the majority, will use it just for that week. So that they might recognize it, but are they using it afterwards? So that's the important part. So why does it matter? Of course, it strengthens your reading and your listening skills. Enhances your writing skills. I'm able to be more precise with my writing. I'm able to be more creative the more words that I have, make it more interesting. Improves my ability to understand classroom information. So I know not only the key terms of what teachers are talking about for, in social studies or science, but I know in general some words that they're talking about. If they tell me to make an inference, do I know what that is? Or look at the rubric. So many times, I'll read a passage with a student and they will, or even directions, and they'll feel fine skipping over a word a lot of the times, not taking that awareness or to stop to say, I don't know this word, let me stop and figure it out. So a lot of times, poor vocabulary can obviously hinder their understanding of academic information and boost your communication skills, communicate my thoughts more efficiently, more precise, so that the other person can understand what I'm saying. So all this is why vocabulary matters. So for reading comprehension, there's a strong positive correlation between your vocabulary and your reading comprehension abilities. There's been a ton of research on this, so just briefly, these are just some of them. So adults who score high in vocabulary tests also score high on reading comprehension tests. And these have been seen in, another research study from 3rd to 6th grade. If they have high vocabulary scores, a lot of times their reading comprehension scores are high as well. One study showed that even a kid's vocabulary knowledge in 1st grade predicted their reading comprehension in 11th grade. So it is important to have that strong foundation of vocabulary skills early, but you can always improve upon that. So just showing that there is a strong correlation between that. You have to know the words to understand what you're reading. So kids typically learn about 3,000 to 4,000 words per year. So of course we cannot teach them all of these words, right? So we do rely on reading to help us develop this vocabulary. But in order to learn these new words, 2 things really need to occur: that we need to read a lot so that we encounter all these unfamiliar and new words. And secondly, that we have the skills to be able to infer what these words mean. Earlier on, of course, it takes place more towards an oral context. I have a 4-year-old, constantly asking me what these words mean. And I have, it's the advantage that I'm in the same space with her. I can use words that she understands. I can, I have body language and I can show her my intonation and my voice and just say, she asks for something, I'm like, oh, it's sort of like this. And I can show her. So they have it's better, it's easier to understand things through oral context when they're younger. But as they get older, of course, now it shifts to the more written context, which is the reading. So they don't have, their parent to sit next to them to explain what it is. They're reading it and they're having to rely on the written context. And so if they're reading this, let's say they come across within the span of time, 100 unfamiliar words, they're only gonna be, on average, learning 5 to 15 of them. So yes, you learn new words from reading, but it is a lot more difficult. And when they say, oh, we'll just look at the context. Well, there's a lot of different types of context when you're reading, and I'm just gonna briefly go through these. So first, general. This is good. It places enough information that you can put it in a general category. So the word gregarious. Joe was having a great time at the party and was talking with everyone. However, the evening was dragging on for Sam, and he thought, I wish I could be as gregarious as Joe. So in a general sense, that helps me know, okay, someone who likes parties or young someone social. So that's helpful. Another helpful one is the one that directly leads me to it. Mark's 2 dogs started to fight. They knocked over a vase, started to bark loudly. As the noise and confusion mounted, Dad hollered, what's all that commotion? So it helps me know that directly a commotion is like a noisy disturbance. But there's other types of context which can be not helpful when learning. There's the misdirected one. So for example, as Mary won the dance competition, Kate grudgingly said, every step she takes is so perfect. So that would lead the reader to think that grudgingly is a more positive, has a more positive connotation versus the correct negative one. So that might lead them in the wrong direction, or possibly one that gives absolutely no clues. Beth heard the front door open and wondered who had just arrived. Then she recognized the lumbering footsteps and knew it was her brother. Well, what kind of footprints with our footsteps? Does he walk loudly? Does he walk softly? Does it just mean familiar? So that way we really don't know. And the more that we get into harder books, I mean, the author is not there for you to understand the context of words. They're there to describe a plot, right? So it's much harder as kids get older when they come across these unfamiliar words to figure it out based on context. So we'll talk more about how to make that a little bit easier. And then for kids with dyslexia, usually they'll start out school with a vocabulary that's on par with their peers, but then, you know, it doesn't grow a lot of times in the same rate. You know, due to the decoding difficulties, they might not be reading as much as their peers, you know, possibly because, you know, obviously it's much more harder, they're fatigued when they read, they're frustrated, not motivated, and then they might not be able to access these words because of those decoding difficulties. They might have heard the word before, but maybe I can't decode it, so I, again, am losing that exposure to it. So a lot of times when kids, you know, they'll think that vocabulary is just memorizing definitions, and a lot of times they'll just put it on a note card, the front, you know, the word, and on the back is the definition. But it's really not enough to really maintain the word by just using, you know, note cards. You have to be able to do more things with the words, like categorize it. Is it an animal? Is it a vehicle? Or categorize it by the part of speech, noun, verb, adjective. What do I do with this word? Can you tell me some synonyms, some antonyms for it? And then most importantly, use it in context. So use it appropriately. So it's not just the definitions, but you have to really be able to provide these features for it. And so to succeed in vocabulary instruction, these 3 things are really important, is that you have to have several exposures to the word. It says that on average, kids need to have about 12 exposures to a word in order to learn it. So a lot of times they're just getting it for that 1 week. You need to know both the you know, the textbook definition of it, but also when would I use it? And engage with them, have it be fun, or that they're doing something so that they're actively processing what the word is. So an example would be like if a student had the word gone and they wrote down the definition that they read or that they found online or whatnot, and it might say lean and haggard, grim, or desolate in appearance. Well, they might not know what haggard is, they might not know what grim or desolate is, but they're writing it down. And so they're just memorizing these words as words themselves and not really understanding what gaunt means. Whereas, you know, let's categorize it. Let's say, you know, it's an adjective, so it's used to describe someone. Say, you know, make sure you have a synonym that they understand for it. You know, it might mean skinny or bony, dreary even, versus antonyms, plump, or joyful. And then use it in context too. So remember when we were learning about the Holocaust, remember when we saw the prisoners, remember what they looked like, you know, they were gone. Or personal context, remember when grandpa was sick and he was in the hospital, he lost all that weight, he was looking gone. But now he's the opposite of that. He got better. So if they just have that, you know, it's not enough, they're not gonna use it. So quickly, some strategies just to be explicit with them and direct. You know, we have reading classes, we have writing classes, we learn a lot about grammar, but a lot of times we don't have that direct vocab instruction. We don't have that time for teachers a lot to sit down and say, okay, we have 30 minutes, let's go over the vocabulary. But it needs to be direct, so you can help with that at home. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Use semantic mapping, whereas how did this word connect to other words? Again, using a lot of times antonyms and synonyms, visuals, draw pictures to make it more concrete. And you guys talked about, you know, morphology, using those roots and using the prefix and suffixes. So they're learning those patterns. So that can help them in new vocabulary words. But also make learning fun. So make it more interactive for them so that they want to learn these words. They want to find out, and they're more curious about these words if we're making it fun for them. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about a few games that you can play with your kids. You know, I said I work with middle and high schoolers. They will still play games. You know, like, well, if they need a break, they'll say, you know, let's play a game, or you mix it up. I mean, I know they'd rather be doing other things, more fun things, but than learning these words probably. But if they had the choice of just looking at flashcards or maybe doing things more interactively, they might select that, hopefully. So one first game, no materials needed for this. You know, this is going to help with categorizing. It can help with describing. We've all played I Spy before. Usually we do it with a color. I spy something red and I have to guess it. But you can also do it with shape. I spy something cylindrical, or size. I spy something gigantic. So just using different vocabulary, function, what it's used for. I spy something that holds food, or with younger kids, you know, I spy something that turns on the TV. Just again, this is more working on categorization. You can also do sounds and rhyming. Another thing you can do is charades or Pictionary. So you can use either the vocabulary words that they have for that week, or maybe words that they have in their books, key terms in science or social studies, or anything that they're reading that they've come across that they don't know. And let's say the word is content is one of the words, and they weren't sure about that. For charades, you can also act out by smiling or doing something that I am content with, maybe laying down. So, you know, you're using the multi-modalities, making it more exciting when you do charades. And you can Pictionary, you obviously will just draw it. You can draw someone smiling. So now they're getting those visuals along with it. They're acting it out. So they're being able to learn those words more. And you can do that with anything. I mean, even if they're learning about, you know, World War II, and they're learning about people, important people in it. I mean, you can try to draw it, you can try to act it out. You could, you know, it just forms that connection better for them so that they're able to do that. So they're not just learning it that one time. And then as you go on, you know, you'll have a stack growing so that maybe by the end of the year, you know, you possibly have had and gone through, you know, 50 or 100 cards, and now they know those words versus, you know, because they're having fun with it, versus other times I get it just once and I'm not going to use it again. You could also take your stack of cards, like maybe for younger kids, to make it more active, spread them out in the yard, play with a sibling or not, and then say, what's a word that means this? And they have to go run and find it, you know, or what's a word that means the opposite of this, and run and find it. Whoever the first one gets that point, you know, just sort of incorporate it, make it more fun for them. So that would be charades or Pictionary. Go fish. I play a lot of go fish. So again, you'll just write the words on there, and you can ask, let's say the word was flexible that they had to learn. You can ask by definition. Do you have a word that means to bend easily? You can ask by synonym, or you can ask by antonym. So again, they're just getting that. You're not just saying, do you have flexible? You're using it more often. Let's see. This is me and my daughter, she's just 6. I just wanted to show how we did go fish. Not really a ton of vocabulary. I could have probably put like frog cycle or whatnot, but they're doing magic E-words. So I put some, hide and home. I put those on our cards, and instead of just asking for the card, we had to describe it to each other. So this would be, another way of getting a deeper understanding of the word. But you can do this with any word. So let me see if that.
Somewhere bees live.
What's that?
You're playing. Okay.
Yes. Ooh, you have a hive? Okay. Do you have something that's sticky? Yes. Okay, what should I do? Go first. Okay. You can go next. Do you have something that flies? Something that flies. I do not. Go fish.
Do functions.
Do you have something that has 2 wheels?
Parts.
Yes. Okay. Bike. Do you have something that you eat on your birthday? No. No. What should I do? Go fish. Go fish. Okay. Do you have a number? A number. I don't have a number. Go fish. Do you have somewhere people live? No. No. Okay, I got it. It was home. Okay, go ahead. Do you have something sticky? I do. I have tape. Is that what you have? Yes, great description. Good reading. You can just go again.
So she's smiling the whole time, having fun and just getting, for her, the exposure of those, the magic E-words, but then, also during the vocabulary. So you could do that with any words that they come across. And again, it could be vocab terms, or it could be, people that they're learning about. If they're learning about cells, do you have something that is the powerhouse of the cell? You could ask them that, and if they might have it, so they're just getting that repetition versus just those flashcards.
She could not make it look any more fun than she did right there.
That was the 10th take notes. Yeah, loves playing any kind of games. It's sweet. Okay, taboo. Has anyone played taboo before? It's really a fun game. You use the clues to help the person guess the word, but you don't use the taboo or the no words. So you can play the game as is, or make up your own from their vocabulary list. So usually you would see this, so the word book, and I have to describe it to someone by not saying pages, story, read, text. So having to be able to word find and describe without those. So I might say something you use to study in school. So again, you can use that with their own vocab words or any sort of key terms. So I'm trying to describe flexible, but I can't say bend, gymnast, or elastic. So, I could say rubber band, or I might say doing the splits, So again, they're getting it in different contexts. And again, I'll keep saying this, if you make, and they can make this, and then it's also helpful for them. They're finding the synonyms, which I want to be tricky, which words don't I use? But then if you keep doing it, you have a nice stack of these words that you can keep doing and repeating. And so they're gonna know these words. So when they come across it in reading, they're gonna know what it is because they had so much exposure to it. Okay, yeah, taboo is super fun, whether you play it with as is or not. And a lot of these are team games that you can play with, but you can also do it one-on-one, just you and your child, or you can do it within a team. Categories is a fun game. Typically you would just write down words that will fit the category. You roll the dice, so you say you get M, and then you have to say the girl's name, Mary, a drink, milk, but you can also use your own, make your own words, your own categories lists, put random stuff on there, or, categorize by 6, a verb or an adjective. So incorporating those aspects. I know grammar's super hard for kids a lot of times to say the parts of speech, so you're just having a fun way. And then number 8, we were learning content. So what's something that makes you feel content, something flexible. In the game you play, you try to if you play with multiple people, you try to think of a more creative term and you don't want to match, and that's how you get a point. But you can also play that, let's see if we can get the same answers and try to play like that. And let's see, once we get to 15, then we both win. So if I did this normally, you can also do it without rolling. You don't have to have all of the same letter. So I spilled those out, what makes me feel content, maybe riding my bike makes me happy, something flexible, rubber band, or you could do all the same if you wanted, if I roll an R. It's much harder that way, of course, but, and a lot of these games have time limits, but we don't have to do the time limits at all on that. Password, fun game as well, again, team or not. So you try to make your partner guess the word by just giving one word clue. So for an example, let's say there are two teams and the word is hypothesis that I want the person to guess. Team A might say to their team, yes. And then the team will come up, okay, inference. No. So then team B gets to go science. And they say experiment. No. So then theory. So again, we're just getting closer to the words and then get it. So password's fun. And I have one more video. There's me and my daughter playing it.
All right, we're gonna play a game called Password. Okay? You need to guess what's on my card, but I'm gonna describe it to you only using one word at a time. So once I say a word, guess what it could be. Okay? There we go. Drink. Water. White. No, they got it. Now let's try it again, okay? And then you get to go. Let me go one more time. Animal. Dog. Mane. Lion. You got it. Good job. All right, you want to try?
Categories, using descriptions.
One word at a time, okay? Animal. Dog. Giraffe? Yes. Turtle. Snail. Snail. Yes.
Fun way, where again, use their vocab words if they have it, or anything that they're reading. And you're just writing it down. I use flashcards all the time, just those note cards, just write it on there. Easy. Apples to apples. You guys played that game before? Now, that's really fun game too, because you're using, you pick a green card, like the judge picks the green card, and then, which is usually an adjective, and everyone has a bunch of red cards, and then they say, whether you pick one that's most accurate to it, so I might put babies down or something funny, and the judge selects which one matches up the best for that category. And so you can do this with, again, their own vocabulary words, using the adjectives and the nouns that they've learned, whether it's, proper or common nouns. And then making these cards is another way that they're getting work on it. So if the word is barbaric, that they're learning about, and if these were, and I'm also learning about World War II, I would make those into the red noun cards. And then if I am the judge and I have to find something that's similar to barbaric, and this is what was turned in, I have to say which one I'm selecting to go along with that and why. And so, a more deeper understanding, I'm using it more in different contexts. And so the person might also say why they put that one down. So again, just using it in a bunch of different ways. And you can also do this, maybe you can have verbs as well. You can do one time with maybe a blue stack of cards with verbs, and then compare it to your red downs there. And then this is just more examples of it. These are some of the vocab words, coming up with synonyms for it. This is if you have people, let's say that I'm the judge and I'm doing determined, and these are what were turned in to me. And as the judge, I need to pick. And I mean, determined could really fit all of those people, but I have to say why I would pick it, why I made that. And then if, I turned in Michael Jordan, I would also say, why did I put Michael? why did I put MLK in there?
And the kid, if you don't mind, the kids love doing this. I used to do this for my history class all the time. Even with dates and things like that, you just give them, all the people you're studying, and then you give them a year, and they would have to match it with the year. It works with everything, and they absolutely love having this.
Yeah, anything to make it interactive and make it fun for them. So they're not only learning the history aspect of it, but they're also learning that vocabulary, and again, putting it in context. Now, these are just some other ones to get at home that you don't have to incorporate their vocabulary words into, and I can send this. Caroline can send these out as well, so if you want to get some of these. So this one is just helping for categorizing, again, super important. When learning vocabulary, this one you're just flipping that card over, and then you are thinking of a word that fits that, and if I say turtle, then I get to take that T. I think whoever gets the most will win. Flirt is fun. You listen to a definition, be the first to say the word. Again, you don't have to time, you can take turns. So this is working on word retrieval. And let's see, Tribon is fun. Again, this one might be for older kids, or because there's some kind of, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I would get this. Comic books, wars, and sandwich shops. What's the common theme? And it's they both have, or they all have heroes. Like, I probably want to get that one, but there's other easy ones. A car, not as easy, but a car, a tree, and an elephant. What do they have in common? So those word relationships, and they all have trunks. So wording, that's also multiple meaning words, but again, just more ways to work with words. And you can have the adults do the harder ones, and the kids do the easier ones. So just making the word connections. And one more catchphrase. Working on, describing a word comes up, and I have to describe it to my teammate. And this one, the ultimate one, you have to like throw and pass, so it's even more fun. And these are just some other ones to consider. Usual suspects with Scrabble, upward bobble, but then these are fun too. Balderdash, smart mouth, English, and headbands. I like headbands because you ask questions with that one. Am I this? Am I that? So after all this, how do you maintain your vocabulary that we've learned? They can keep a notebook. Where maybe those semantic webs they have in there, those word webs where I have the word, I have the picture of it, I have a word that means the same, that means the opposite. So I have that notebook that I can review it often. And they're also reviewing it often if they are working on these games. Again, you have that stack of words, you're reusing it. So by the end of the year, they're gonna maintain it and know it. Use the words, encourage them to use it in their writing, make their writing more creative. You have a better word for thin. Remember, we learned the word gaunt. Let's incorporate that. And then you're more aware of what they're learning by playing these games, so you know that you can incorporate it into your speech as well. And read, the more times you read a word, see the word, the more times the easier it will be to remember it. And just playing the games, make them more develop an interest in them to want to know more about words. And I think, oh, I don't know that word, let me add it to the stack. That you can encourage them to do that. So that's having fun with words. I'll send that, but do you have any questions for me at all? Oh, that was fast. Good. All right, cool. Well, thank you.
I wish I'd heard this presentation like, I don't know, 5 years ago.
And they'll, instead of just, or even I like Quizlet, right? And I encourage that, but then make sure that if they are doing Quizlet, you also include pictures on it, or then you also have to stack them, not just the definitions, but some synonyms as well. Because I know now, Kahoot inputs that super popular, but you can still do things to make it so they do understand it and make sure you know what they're learning so that you can incorporate it too in your everyday language. But yeah, with my daughters, like my 6-year-old, we'll come across a word, or we come across a lot of idioms in books. Like last night we read one that said hold your horses. And I made sure, I just keep repeating, this isn't an idiom, just here's that word. So the more they hear it, because it's a lot of times you're getting this, in science, fourth grade, we're learning about cells. 5th grade, hey, I'm learning about cells again. And you keep learning about it. And it's for them, a lot of times it's got to relearn it every year. But if they have that, consistent knowledge of it, they can build up their foundation and don't have to relearn it. I know it. But please still try it. I know they're not probably as interested in it.
I'm
but-
just getting to a place where Lily, my daughter, enjoys hearing me read to her. It's been, a process
Yeah.
of that, just because she would shut down for a long time when I would start to read. I don't know if she felt overwhelmed or if she just didn't understand, but now I can read and she will sit back and relax and listen.
Yeah.
So that's
And
first,
yeah,
step,
and if
I'm
you feel
like,
like there's a word that, that
Yeah.
she might not know, put it in, remember that thing that's similar to this, or, just so that she's
yeah, some of these games are great.
Good. It's really fun. So yeah, my daughters are my guinea pigs, so we try to incorporate things, and they're young, but,
Yeah.
you two, 4 and 6. 4 and 6. So right now, 4-year-old is constantly asking what words means, because she gets that oral context of it, and I feel like as kids get older, they're stop being nasty, and they're kind of okay with not knowing the word. I can read this page, I know some words, it's okay. So, making them, by doing these things, possibly more aware that you should know this and you can know it. But yeah. This is so important because we don't get that
No.
direct instruction in class. This is 30-minute vocab hour or 30-minute vocab, time. So, just to help out as much as you can.
That was very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you guys have any more questions?
Always email me too. Yeah, when it comes up.
Thank you so much,
Yeah, you're
Dr. Baker.
welcome.
We appreciate it.
Good, I'm happy to do it.